سلامات دكتورة.
الله يسلمك.
الله يسلمك.
So let us start. We will talk about network technology. We will cover different points, like different type of connection to network, like the speed of the connection, transferring of data, different types of connection like wire, like fiber optics, like the twisted line, which is the telephone line. And we know that to have a network, it's essential to do a communication. As a human, we need to communicate with each other. And one of the advantages also to have a network and to make a communication, that we could have the data stored in a place where we actually make a connection in different place. And this make evolution of identity distinguishing, like face recognition, like eye recognition, voice recognition. And this enables us to communicate on distance. So first, we need to understand the concept of network of networks, which is the meaning of internet. Internet is network of networks. So it's sit behind the worldwide communication, and we will look what is it and what's behind its technology. Internet derives from the fact that the internet is itself made up of many other joined together networks. So it's more than one network connected with each other. But the internet is not the only player in providing communication, because there are also another servers that have the data. It's not only the wires, but we also need to share the data, the files, the pictures. We need to send messages. We need to receive some messages. So all this inside the communication process. We need also to have some provider of the internet, like the telecommunication companies, like we have here STC, Mobile, Zain. And we need to have some devices to enable us to connect with the telecommunication company. So we need to have a router, we need to have some broadband, like linked system, some of the devices that enable you to make a connection to a telecommunication company. Also, sometimes we need to connect with our phones, so we need to use one of the operators of mobile phone operators. Sometimes you got Wi-Fi access point where you can access the Wi-Fi and make connection with it. Another concept, you might need to access the internet through your local area networks at home or at work, to name most of the important ones. So, for example, here in figure 1, you can imagine the ideas like you are sitting in your PC and your printer also connected to the internet at your home by using the modem there in your home, the router. You are connecting through the with the router through Wi-Fi, while the printer is connected through the wire. The modem itself or the router connected to the internet service provider router, STC or Zain, and it's connected to the company router. And the same network connected with one of the office LAN in some of the worst companies. So we have also some switch that connect to more than one server, one to store files, one to store data, one to store emails. So this is the one figure of network connection and how we can connect the different devices together. And we need also to think about how the data transfer from one place to another place. So this is actually an explanation about what I just said. We have laptop and pad connected to the internet at home by using Home Hub through Wi-Fi. We have a printer connected through a wire through Ethernet board. We have a broadband link through internet service provider, which is the companies. We have gateway router. We have a local area network. We have wide area network, which is bigger network, connect and cover wider area like whole city. Whereas LAN can cover a building, a home, a school, a company, while a wide area network can cover a whole city. So another important concept to understand is the relationship between the computer and the various network devices at the university that provide service to you. Another concept is to think as a client requesting some files or some services from the server. Both of them are connected through a LAN, local area network, and the file is stored in your PC. You can send them and get them from file server like a cloud, if you think of it like a cloud, and web client to serve the web, where all the websites are stored inside web server. You get the website through the LAN network. And also to check the email, you need some email server on one side and the email client, your email box on the other side. Client-server relationships are important in communication networks as they enable you to define network devices by what they do rather than by their physical appearance. So you think about the service that you need to perform, you need to get the email, you need to open a website, you need to store a file or to get a file. You don't know where it's stored. All you need is that to request the file or type the address of the website. One way of looking at complicated systems is to think of them like layers. For example, you can think of the computer as the physical hardware layer, whereas the operating system will be the operating system layer. Operating system like Windows, Macintosh, and application layer is the layer behind the operating system layer, like the web browser, like the Office version, like the calculator, the painter, any other application. So we will have the physical hardware layer, including your computer with the keyboard, with the mouse, with the screen. Then we will have the operating system layer, which is the Windows or Macintosh or Linux. Then we will have the application layer, including the different applications and programs in your computer, like the browser, like the painter, like the Office, different application. So the operating system relies on the hardware and enable application to be run. Each layer will depend on the other one and will allow the service to communicate between you by using the hardware to the end layer, which is using the different software. This conceptual structure of the communication process in layer is described as the layered architecture of communication system. Some of features of this architecture that a layer provides a service to the layer above, like here, application will provide service to the operating system. The operating system will provide service to the screen and the other hardware layer. The higher layer uses the service provided by the layer below. So we actually using the service by using a pointer of the mouse on the files, which is sending a request to the operating system to open the file. Then the file explorer application in your computer will run the file for you by looking for the best application to open it. The peers at each end of communication link is in any one layer need to be able to understand each other. It's like the end between each layer need to translate the meaning, needs to understand which data needs to be passed between the two layers. Data transmission. The purpose of a communication network is to provide a pathway to allow services, such as email, to operate end-to-end. So why we need to have this communication? Because we need to send some data and we need to get some data, whatever it was, this data, whether it was a file or opening a website or sending an email. A network, as in computing, the term data is used when we talk about what is transmitted, whatever it was, this data. When you look inside the cloud or under the service of communication networks, sooner or later you come to the basic problem of how to convey data over a long distance. So as the data is transferred long distance, some of its part might be lost or damaged or disturbed. So, or maybe also stolen while it's traveled. So we need to make sure it's arrived to the destination correctly without any corruption, as secure as it's supposed to be. In the terminology of communication, the process of getting data from one point to another is referred to as data transmission. So data transmission is meaning of receiving some data from somewhere else. Like here, for example, you are here in your computer using the Home Hub. You get some file from your computer at the university by connecting it to the server of the university, and you put your username and your password, then you can get access to the files there. In communication networks, data carried on each link between two nodes will be subject to a form of loss called attenuation, which reduces the strength of a signal as it travels away from its source. So attenuation is actually the signal will be weak if it's a travel in a long distance. The effect of attenuation is to gradually distort the data signals until it eventually becomes unreadable by the receiver at the end of the link. So the problem is highlighted here. If you got weak signal, the receiver will not be able to read it correctly. This means you need to get the strength of the signal as it's become weaker. Since everything is digital in modern communication system, the basic job of a transmission is simple: to send data as a sequence of ones and zeros from one location to another. So we need to make sure that we generate the signal again as 1 and 0 as it was sent. When it's get weaker, we need to regenerate the data again until it's arrived to its destination. This 1 and 0, how we can measure it's getting weakened or no? Because it has some characteristics and we can represent it by physical quantity. And in modern system, three things are used to send the data, either by using laser light as an optical fiber, either we send the 1 and 0 as electricity along a pair of wire, or we can send it as radio wave and microwave radiation through the air. So three different cases how we can send the ones and zeros, either like laser light if we are using optical fiber, or as electricity on and off if we are using a pair of wire, or we can send it as wave, radio waves and microwaves radiation through the air. So it's depend actually about which media are the data transferring in. Is it in the air, or is it in the wire, or it is inside the optical fiber glass? First, we will see the first case, the optical fiber. Using light to send 1 and 0s is perhaps the simplest to understand of 3 transmission methods. Bits are sent using on and off keying. So if you are using light, on will represent 1 and off will represent 0. So you will send a beam of 1s and 0s like on and off light. So the light in an optical fiber or the electrical signal in a wire gets weaker as it travels to the point at which it becomes undetectable. We need to regenerate the signal as it's become weaker. The process of detecting the incoming signal combined with sending out a new signal for the next leg of the journey is known as regeneration. So we actually regenerate the beam to make it strong again. Because the signal is generated again, regenerated. So this is a term that you might be asked in the exam. What does it mean, regenerating a beam? Means you make the signal as strong as it was. You generated. You detect the signal and you send it again. As the optical fibers use light to send the data, optical fiber is a strand of glass or plastic, not much thicker than a human hair. So don't think it's very thick. No, it's very thin. A strand of glass or plastic and will send the light inside it as on and off. The second option, by using radio wave or microwave wave. Radio wave and microwave are actually the same phenomenon as light. They are all electromagnetic waves, although they differ substantially in what is called the frequency. So the characteristics of radio waves and microwave waves that they have some frequency. And radio waves is sometimes taken to refer generically to the whole of the radio and microwave band. It's the same as the one you have it in your microwave. The term radio wave does not just refer to the signals used by radio, it's also a generic term for electromagnetic radiation. So don't think of it only related to the radio, but it's a general term for electromagnetic radiation within a particular range of frequencies. So based on the frequency range, we can measure the radio waves and microwave waves that we can use it to transfer data. What is electromagnetic radiation principle? A wave decays, the magnitude of a peak and thaw of the wave decrease as it moves and the energy is dissipated. This means if the radio waves travels in distance, this means as it's a travel, it will become weak also. The frequency will be less and less with times. So at one point, it will be disappear. So we need to strengthen it again. We need to generate it again. If the energy wasn't dissipated and there was no decay, the shape would be the same for the whole time the wave is moving. Waveform with a periodically repeating curve of this general shape are known as sine wave. So the sine wave is the shape in figure 5. And by repeating the same wave with the same length on the same time, we will get the sine wave, and this means the wave have the same strength, the same data is traveling the whole distance. An important parameter of a sine wave such as this is the wavelength. So each sine wave have wavelength. The basic building block of wave pattern, one cycle of the wave looks like figure 6. So here in figure 6, up the wave and down the wave, one cycle is the the value between the top and the bottom. The basic building blocks of the wave pattern, one cycle of the waves. The length of one cycle of the wave is what we mean by wavelength. So this is actually the one cycle, we call it one wavelength. Electromagnetic waves may also be sinusoidal. Sinusoidal means having the shape of sine wave. If you could freeze a sinusoidal electromagnetic wave at an instant in time, measures its electrical or magnetic field strength at different points in space and plot these measurements on a graph, the shape of the graph would be as shown in figure 7. You need to calculate the length and the power of the wave as it travels to check its strength, at which level it's reduced. When it starts to become less, you need to regenerate the value again. So you make sure that the value will arrive as it's sent. Another characteristics of sine wave is period. Instead of measuring the wave field strength at different points in space, you could measure it at different instant in time as it travels. So as long as the time period you measure the strength of your wave, if your time slots was less, this means you can get exactly the wave value in each point and you can generate it more accurate. You will notice that the wave plotted in time looks rather similar to wave plotted in space, which is perfect. The difference is that in one graph, the horizontal axis has units of distance. So we have time, the wave is moving on, and also we have the strength of the wave. They both have the same basic shape, the sine wave, and just as we can identify one cycle of the wave in space, we can identify one cycle in a time. So you can measure it on time. The duration of one cycle is called period. Period is actually the distance or the figure between two bottoms or two tops, thumbs. Where is here? Either down or either tops. The frequency, which is the characteristics of the wave, is actually referred to the number of cycles in a given time in a single second. So how many cycles in 1 second is referred to the frequency. The shorter the period, the more cycle completed in 1 second. So if you reduce the period, you will get more cycles in 1 second. This means you will get high frequency. The units to measure the frequency is hertz. So hertz is the unit to measure the frequency of the waves. A wave that completes one cycle every second has a frequency of 1 hertz. A wave that completed 1,000 cycles every second has a frequency of 1,000 hertz. Or we can refer to it as 1 kilohertz. If you got high frequency, then you can represent it with megahertz, which is 1 million cycles per second, or with gigahertz, which is 1,000 million in cycle per seconds. Okay, so this is called the frequency, which is the number of cycles in second. The electromagnetic spectrum, the full range of electromagnetic radiation is described as the electromagnetic spectrum. and illustrated in figure 10. So we have different spectrum. We have the microwave radiation, we can have the radio wave, we have the infrared wave, we have the ultraviolet waves, we have the visible X-ray, gamma ray. So all these are different of electromagnetic radiation. Each one of these electromagnetic radiation have different frequency, which is different number of cycles per seconds. Here, based on this figure, you can compare the frequency scale as it's showing in hertz along the bottom using the exponential notation. So rather than typing the values of the frequency for this electromagnetic spectrum with real numbers, 10,000, 1 million, whatever, you can see the values here is represented with exponential notation, which is the power of 10. So you can see the figure, the different group of radiation. We can see here gamma ray, very number of a frequency. It's a frequency very high. The radio, it's a frequency is less, and microwaves. So we can imagine what are we meaning. Each group occupies a particular space in the spectrum that is determined by its range of frequency. You can see the microwave fall between radio waves and infrared here, which is microwave between radio and infrared in the middle of them. Communication capacity in different spectrum. The frequency axis we just saw with logarithmic scale. What this means is that each equal length step along the axis corresponds to multiplying by the same amount, and exponential notation is used, which is the power of 10. The first increment on the axis is labeled 10 power 2, which is equal to 100. Next one will be 10 power 3. Next one will be 10 power 4. As you go in the power with one value, you will add one more zero to the 10 number. So you will get 100, 1,000, 10,000, and so on. This differs from ordinary linear scale, where equal steps correspond to adding equal amount. So here, we don't have equal amount between each number in the scale, but we have the power of 10. So this is the difference between the linear scale, the ordinary one, and between the power 10, the exponential scale. So the word bandwidth is also used with a different meaning to refer to data transmission rate. So bandwidth is actually how many data are transmitted during this connection. We can call it transmission rate, communication capacity, all the same meaning. In this context, it's measured in units of bits per second. So how many data is transferred by using one of the connection media is actually, we can measure it by how many data is transferred. Or as the data is digital, how many bits, 0 and 1, is transferred, but in a second. So it is bit per second, BPS, or bandwidth. Attenuation is defined as the decrease in power of a signal as it travels away from its source. So attenuation is actually how much the signal become weak as it's travel, and this is called the attenuation. Attenuation in both metallic wire and optical fiber takes the form of exponential decay or negative exponential. We can represent the value of attenuation also by using the exponential values, but with negative exponential. This means minus value or minus power of 10. Whereas with exponential growth, the size of something keeps increasing by the same factor. With exponential decay, the size keeps decrease by the same factor. So we can here imagine the exponential growth with plus, the positive sign, whereas the attenuation with negative value, negative exponential value. So exponential decay, the size keep decreasing by the same factor, all with power of 10. We have here some example. We have a wire used to transfer data. The attenuation for this wire might be such that the power drops by a factor of 10 every 500 meters. So every 500 meters, power of 10 reduced by 1. This means if the power starts off as 2 watt, then after 500 meters, it will be 0.2 watt divided by 10, which is 2 out of 100 watt. After another 500 meter, it will be divided by another 10. So it will be 2 out of 1000 watt. After 500, the old value will be divided also by 10. So it will be 2 out of 1000 watt and so on. So every 500 meter, it will reduce the value by 10. We can express this decrease of the power by using scientific notation rather than typing 2 out of 10 watt, 2 out of 1000 watt, 2 out of 100 watt. We can represent these values by using the scientific notation, which is the power of 10. Negative power are explained in the booklet using numbers math, which is the same as here. As it is notation, which is losing power, we said we will represent it with negative power of 10. So when the distance was, another way to compare different transmission media is to compare the distance over which a signal will be attenuated by some fixed factor, such as 10. So we can also calculate it with a fixed value. To compare the distance over which the power of a signal sent via the different media decreased by a factor of 10, we can represent it like this, using the wire. When the distance was 0, the signal power was 2 multiplied 10 minus 1, which is 2 out of 10. When the wave traveled 500 meters, it was 10 minus 2. When it was 1000, which is every 5 meters, so if you check the values here, it was 500, then 1000, 1015, 2000, 2015, 3000. So here we have a fixed value to travel the signals in. If every 500 meters, the signal will reduce power of 10. One value of power of 10. So it was at the beginning 10 minus 1, then 10 minus 2, then 10 minus 3, then 10 minus 4, then 10 minus 5, then 10 minus 6, then 10 minus 7. Every time we reduce the strength of the power with power of 10. Negative power of 10, very small numbers are, now we need to understand how we can represent the long numbers with the small numbers is actually the small number, very small numbers, how we can represent it with negative power of 10. So very small numbers are inconvenient to write out in full. For example, you have this value, you have 34 out of million. It's easy to make mistakes with the number of zeros, or even to represent it with, to write it. So it's become easier if you represent it with only 2 to 3 digits with power of 10. For very large numbers, we use exponential notation with positive power of 10. Like here, 10 power of 6, it will become 1 million. In this case, the first figure 10 is known as the base, so we call 10 the base, while the second figure 6, we call it power or the exponent. Exponent or power and base. 10 is the base, 6 is the exponent or the power. Or also we can call it superscript or index. It has different terms to refer to. Choose whatever you want, but you need to understand what is it. This example would be read as 10 to the power of 6. So we can say this is 10 power of 6. 10 to the power of 6. This means the how many times 10 will be multiplying itself, which is actually 10 multiplying itself 6 times. 10 multiply 10 multiply 10 multiply 10 multiply 10 multiply 10 6 times. With positive power of 10, the power gives the number of zeros after the 1. So 10 multiply 6, this means we have 1, then we have 6 zeros after the 1, which is equal to 1 million. In the case of negative power, we divide it. So we get smaller number. As we get high negative value in the power, we get smaller number. The power gives the number of zeros before the 1. So the opposite way. If it's positive, the number of zeros in front of the 1. If it's negative, the number of zeros before the 1. For example, 10 power minus 1, this means it will become 1 point out of 0, 1 out of 10. 1 من 10 يعني. Divided. As 10 is actually 1 divided by 10. Whereas 10 power minus 2 is actually 1 divide 10 multiply 10 2 times, which is 100. So it's like 1 out of 100. 1 من 100. Another way of thinking about this is that the minus sign means 1 divided by the number with the equivalent positive power. As we know, we have the fractional, we have top and bottom of a fractional. So if you move the power to the bottom, you actually transferring the negative power to positive power. So 10 power 2 is equal to 100. 10 minus 2 is actually 1 divide 100, which is 1 out of 100. 10 power 6 positive exponential equal to 1 million. 10 power minus 6 is actually 1 divided to 1 million, which is 1 out of 1 million. 1 out of million. Here we have an exercise. We need to express the following in exponential notation. We have here 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000, not 100. So you need to say it is 10 power. How many zeros behind or before the 1? So here we have 3 digits, so it will become -3 as it is less number. And also here, we have 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros before the 1. So it will become the power of 7, but with negative value. We have here 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros before the 1. So it will become 10 with -5 as power. Some common prefixes for large numbers called kilo, which is equal to 10 power 3, mega 10 power 6, giga 10 power 9. So rather than representing the number with a lot of zeros there, we can represent it by using kilo or mega or giga or tera also, which is equal to 10 power 12. In addition to these prefixes that cover the large scale, there are also prefixes for very small scale, which is milli, 10 power 3 minus power 3, power minus 3, micro, which is 10 power minus 6, nano, which is 10 power minus 9, pico, which is 10 power minus 12, femto, which is 10 power minus 15. You need to memorize these symbols here, the abbreviation for milli, micro, nano, pico, femto. And also you need to memorize the values of the power, as you might get any question related to them and getting the equivalent values. Multiplying powers. The basics of multiplying powers, the base is the same. We look only for the powers. If they are positives, you will add them together. If they are negative, you will add them together, but with negative sign. If they one of them positive, one of them negatives, you will subtract them from each other and you will get the sign of the higher value. So if you have 10 multiplied 10, the base is the same. Look for the power. You have here 2, you have here 3. Both of them positive. So all you need is to add the power together. The base will be 1, so 10. Then the power, you will add them together, 2 plus 3. This will give you the value of 10 power 5. The same idea, if the power was negative, you will add them together, but the sign will be negative. So the base is 10, 1, and the power here is -2, the power here is -3, so we will add them together, -2 plus -3, both of them are negative. This will give me -5. So the result will be 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5 is equal to 1 divided by 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5 times, and this is equal to 1 out of 10,000. It also works with mixed positive and negative power, but you need to set the base and you get the sign of the high value. So here we have 2, we have -3. So the -3 is higher than 2. The result will be subtracting. It's like 2 minus 3, it will become -1. So the result will be 10 minus 1 is equal to 1 divided by 10, which is 1 out of 10. 10 power -2 multiply 10 power 3, it will equal to 10, the base. And if you add the power together, you will get -2 plus 3 equal to 10 power 1, which is equal to 10. I hope it's clear. Notice how this works when the positive and negative power are the same number. If the power was the same value, one is positive, one is negative, it's like you have the base to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 will equal to 1. 10 power of 0 will equal to 1. So this makes sense because, for example, 10 power 2 equal 100. 10 power minus 2 is equal 1 divided by 100, which is 1 out of 100. I hope you are good in math. So here, write down the answers to the following. We have 10 power 3 multiply 10 power 7. We need to add the power together. So we will get 10 power 3 plus 7, and this will give me 10 power of 10, which is 7 plus 3. Okay. Then we have 10 power 4 multiply 10 power minus 6. We have positive power with negative power. The negative value is higher, so we need to subtract them. It's like 4 plus minus 6. It will equal to minus 2. So by the end, we will get 10 power minus 2. Everything clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Very good. Very good. If you have a question, if you didn't understand anything, stop me. I will explain it again. As today class is full of understanding different notation and counting power. Let us move on. We have this another example. We have 10 microwatt and 10 nanowatt, and we need to express them with exponential notation, which is using power of 10. Here, you need to get the value of micro, which is equal to 10 power minus 6 from the table, from the previous slide. So 100 microwatt is actually equal to 100 multiply 10 10 power minus 6. 100, you can represent it with 10 power 2, which is equal to 100. And then you can add the power together. By the end, you will get 10 power minus 4. 10 nanowatt is actually, you need to get the value of nanowatt, which is equal to 10 power minus 9. As the 10 have the power 1, you represent it with power. Here is 1, here is minus 9 for the nano. And you will add the powers together. By the end, you will get 10 power minus 8. Okay. Scientific notation. Writing a number in scientific notation involves writing it in the form of number between 1 and zeros. If you see all the previous examples, we are actually representing the numbers between 1 to 10 with different values, either positives, it will become positives, or it will become high number or smaller number. This number between 1 and 10 excludes 10 but include 1. So there is no 10, but there is always 1, which we can represent the power of 10 with any value. Each of the power of 10 that you've been working with can be expressed in scientific notation with the number in question being 1. For example, if you have 100, you can represent it with 10 power 2, which is equal to 1 multiply 10 power 2. It's the same. You can represent it by using 1. To express number greater than 10 in scientific notation, the first stage is to divide it repeatedly by 10. So if you have a value greater than 10, divide it every time to the value of 10 until you reduce the value. You get less than 10 number. For example, you have the value 4865. if you want to represent this value by using scientific notation, you need to repeatedly divide it by 10 until by the end you will get the value 4.865. So we transfer it to decimal number to a value between 1 to 10. This results in a number that includes decimal fraction, the part that follows the decimal point, as well as a whole number by part. Then you can represent it with fractional. You will take the number 4, and in this example, 4 is the whole number. Okay, then we will get 0.865 as decimal fraction. In this case, we can represent 4.865 multiplied with 10 power 3, the number of digits after the decimal point. We multiply it with 10 power, the number of digits we have. Any number we can represent it with scientific notation. For example, 500 is actually 5 multiply 10 3 times. 72,000 is actually 7.2 multiply 10 4 times. 82,600 is actually 8.26 multiply and 10 4 times. The number of the points and zeros, we remove it from the numbers. So we have here, we convert 82,600 to 8.26. So we got 2 values here. And also we got 2 zeros from the real number here. So we add them as 10 here. 10 multiply 10 for 2 and 6. 2 multiply 10 for the 2 zeros here. By the end, we will get 8.26 multiply 10 power 4 as the values. If we want to transfer this values 23,000 to scientific notation, we can do the same. We can equal it to 2.3 multiply how many zeros we got there. We have 3, so 10 power 3, and also as we got 3 as part of the decimal part, we will add it to the power of 10. So we will get by the end 10 power of 4. 3 for the zeros here, and 1 because of the decimal part here, which is 3. 478, we can transfer it to 4.74. Multiply, as there is no zeros here, only we can count how many digits here after the decimal point. We have 2, then we can multiply it to 10 power 2. Expressing a small number between 0 and 1 in scientific notation involves a process very similar to that for large numbers. For example, if we have 175 out of 10,000, first we need to move the decimal point to the right until it sits after the first non-zero digit. So we need to transfer it to 1. Decimal point, move it 3 places. Then you will remove all the consecutive zeros as the left-hand end with power of 10, but with the minus, with the negative values. Multiply this number by 10, rise to the power minus the number of places the decimal point has moved. So by the end, you will get the value as 1.75 multiplied to 10 minus 3. How many places you move in the 1, 2? So you have the 1 here. You move it 1, 2, 3. You move it to 3 spaces here. So after the decimal point. So you will actually multiply it to 10 power minus 3. Using numbers. This is a good time to take a look at the booklet using number. You need to practice this math. You need to be familiarize yourself with how to express any values with scientific notation. You should feel free to work through all of the section where you think you might express difficulties. Each section in the booklet contain both explanation and examples, so you need to work during this meeting. You can refer using exponential notation and scientific notation. By the end, this section has focused on helping you understand some of the mathematical principles that are needed to understand some concepts of network designs and operation, especially about the broadband and the data transmission, which represented by gigabyte and megabyte. After today's meeting, you will be able to carry any calculation using both positives and negative power of 10 and use scientific notation. I know today's session is full of numbers, so if you don't like math, this will not be your best meeting, but you need to work through it as you might expect anything of this in the exam, and we all need to get high mark. I finish from today's meeting. Thank you very much. I will just take the attendance and I will just take the attendance. There are 35 attendees today in our meeting. Thank you all for attending today. If you have any question, you can ask. If you don't have any question, then you are free to go. Thank you all. Yes, Radeeb, the lecture is recorded and I will send it to you, inshallah. You're welcome. Thank you all for attending. Yes, Razan, what is your question? Okay, so Ranim is asking to explain the homework. كتبت السؤال الثالث كخوارزمية بس قلت قبل ما أدخلها أشوف إيش يبغوا بالضبط. طب خلينا أفتح لحظة بس خليني أجيب TMA خليني أشوفها لحظة بس. Just give me a few minutes as I changed the PC and I have the file in another laptop. So just give me, I'll bring the hard disk. Just a second. I'm back. Just a second. I will share the file with you. I didn't open the LMS because I don't remember the password. I save it in the PC and I take the PC to the maintenance. So I have the files and the hardware. Just a second. The TMA. TMA. Just a second. I couldn't locate the file. مو خلينا نسوي له شيرنج. ابغى اتاكد هو سيم فايل اللي عندكم ولا لا. خلينا نشوف هنا. مو راضي يطلع لي، مدري ليش. خلوني اسكر هذه الشيرنج وارجع افتحها عشان في two files with the same name. غريب. طيب if you have the file I will explain it. يعني مو قادرة اسوي له شيرنج، ما ادري ليش مو راضي يطلع. مو راضي يطلع في الاوبشنز حقت الشيرنج في الفايلز. آخر محاولة. ممكن إيش تشرحي لنا الميتنج الجاي؟ عندي الفايل فتحته أنا، بس أبغاكم تشوفوه ومو راضي يطلع لي إياه من الأوبشنز، ما أدري إيش الموضوع يعني. فبشرح لكم الأسئلة. هي طبعا 3 questions. الكويستشن الأول have 5 mark. To be placed on honor list, students should finish at least 45 credit hours with a GPA of 3.67 or higher. صح؟ هذا هو ال TMA. أبغى تأكيد. هذا هو نفس ال TMA.
صح أستاذة.
مظبوط؟
صح دكتورة صح.
إيه دكتورة نفسها.
ممتاز. Write algorithms. طبعا for the whole questions المفروض إن أنتوا you write algorithms. Algorithms مش يعني ال AOU build. algorithms يعني بتكتبي sentence explain to it ايش اللي المفروض يسويه البروجرام.
يعني تحليل الخطوات دكتورة.
الخطوات الستبس اللي بيمشي عليها البرنامج.
دكتورة الله يعافيك، أنا الحين خلصت الواجب. طيب حليت أول سؤال وثاني سؤال وثالث سؤال، بس أنا عندي مشكلة بالواجب. الحين الألجوريثم حليتها زي طريقة يعني مثلا الألجوريثم اللي هي مثلا إحنا في الآيو بيلد حطينا replace with مثلا أو swapping، فعادي لو كتبت في الألجوريثم مثلا replace الإكس with y.
أي عادي
صح، مو لازم مثلا swap أو شيء زي كذا، نقدر نستخدمها بأي طريقة.
هي في الألجوريثمز إحنا بنكتب simple English sentence.
أيوة.
طالما إنها English sentence مو مهم الكلمات، المهم المينينج حق الكلمات. swap و replace و change كلها نفس المعنى.
أيوة.
اي دكتورة، لان انا حليتها تقريبا في الالجوريثم زي الطريقة مثلا ايام الجافا لما كنا ناخذ TM105 مثلا حطيت if the بعدين الشرط، بعدين حطيت اللي هي هذه البراكتس، بعدين حطيت الكود تحت ووضحته سوابينج زي كذا، فاستخدمت زي طريقة شوية من الجافا قريبة بطريقة الكودينج حق الجافا في الالجوريثم. ينفع كذا او لا؟
مو مشكلة، بينفع.
اوكي تمام.
اوكي. Here you have a student to be placed وعندك owner list، فالمفروض يكون عندك list تسميها owner list، بتحطي فيها الستودنت. you will place the student there.
دكتورة هو إذا بتحقق الشرط بنحط الاسم بالليست، إذا ما تحقق ما بنضاف على الليست.
برافو،
أنا هيك حليته مزبوط.
طب وش الشرط حقنا؟
الشرط بيكون في عندك اللي هي two values إذا تطابقت للكريدت والجي بي اي. في
أيوة.
عندك شرطين في values معينة إذا كانت أكبر أو تساوي الكريدت المعين هذا الانبوت and اللي هو الجي بي اي كمان أكبر أو يساوي. إذا تحقق هذا الشرط إذن add this item أو this name to the list, else it will not be added.
طبعا الشرطين هم انه الكريدت اور greater than 45
مزبوط
اكبر من 45 والجي بي اي انه يكون 3.67 or higher، يعني الفاليو 3.67 من ضمنها. ننتبه لها النقطة دي.
تساوي اكبر او تساوي. طب دكتورة انا بس بدي اسالك بقلب الاوبريتورز بالباليت كيف فيني اعمل اكبر او تساوي؟
فيها ممكن تحطي الفاليو اللي قبلها. حطي الفاليو اللي قبلها، يعني هنا 3.67 حطي greater than 3.66.
هيك تمام، يعني ما بصير عندي مشكلة.
جربيها، ما اعتقد انها بتصير في مشكلة. لما تقولي له 3 اكبر من 3.66 بتكون 3.67 وطالع.
مزبوط. اوكي.
هذه فالمطلوب منك for this question you have to write algorithms. قيم في السؤال الأول إحنا نفترضها صح. خلينا نكمل باقي السؤال وبعدين نشوف أسئلتكم على السؤال الأول. فهنا you have to write الalgorithms you have to mention there إنه prompts the students to enter number of credit hours، بتخلي اليوزر يدخل how many credit hours اللي خلصها، كم ساعة خلص، والجي بي اي. request two things from اليوزر، الكريدت اور والجي بي اي. ثاني حاجة display a message، بتطلعي له message whether he or she will be placed on the owner list or not، يعني بتقولي له بنضيفك في الليست ولا ما راح نضيفك في الليست. then you have to write الالجوريثمز حقك في AOU build و you have to show a screenshot of the input والoutput، يعني بتوري في السكرين شوت ايش دخلتي وايش الفاليو اللي طلعت. الفورمات حق الاوتبوت it should be in this way. Sample input enter number of credit hours 50 enter GPA 3.9. الاوتبوت الاكسبكتد you will be placed on the owner list. يعني ما قالوا حطي هنا ما في names ها، بس في بتحطي يعني اساسا ما بيكون في لسته، هي كلها imaginary، يعني انه بتقولي له yes بتكون عباره عن if و else condition. you will be added to the list ولا not be added to the list، ما قالوا حطيها في الليست.
طب دكتورة إذا أنت قلتي إنه دائما يعني أي سؤال في أكثر من طريقة للحل وطريقة لتفكير الطالب أو اللي عم يحل، يعني إذا ضفتي ليست وضفتي عليها أسماء الطلاب اللي honored which is logic، يعني بيكون إنه تمام ما في مشكل بالسؤال، يعني بحل السؤال. بيكون بيرفكت لأنه أصلا يعني
هم هنا عم طالبين منكم simple things.
لا أنا I did it as a list لأنه أنا I want to see the names، يعني حتى أنا حطيت من عندي إنه please حط لي اسم.
حط لك اسم، حط لي اسم.
مزبوط.
برافو. أنت هذا true روح على
مزبوط. مزبوط.
بس لا تنسي إن أنت ما تطلع من السؤال طالب من عندك السامبل أوتبوت إنه يا فلان you will be in the list.
ايه مزبوط، ايه انا حققت كل الشروط مزبوط. بس انا اطلعت على كلمة list على طول، يعني هي keyword، فقلت انه لازم يكون في list عندي قدامي تبين اذا هذا الطالب بالأونر list او لا.
اوكي، في سؤال هل الحل بيكون بنفس الملف؟ ممكن بتحلي في نفس الملف تحت السؤال، يعني السؤال الأول بيكون فوق، في تحطي سبيس تحت، تضغطي انتر وتبدي تحلي الكويستشن تحت السؤال، ممكن مو مشكلة. هل القيم من عندكم اللي بتحطوها في الانبوت والاوتبوت؟ في الانبوت yes you can، أو ممكن أنتم تتقيدوا بالقيم اللي حاطينها لكم في السامبلز، في الفولوينج سامبلز. نطبقها على خل أقرأ الكويستشن. هل الألجوريثم طبقها على الأو يو بيلد ولا كتبها بالوورد بس؟ لا، طبعا أنا اللي صار إنه أنا فهمت إنه كل شيء نجود مايك حق شغال يا نجود، ممكن تطفيه؟ طبعا هنا اللي بتصير في خربشة في اوكي اوكي نجود طفت المايك. طيب هل السورتنج الجوريثم تبقيها على الاو يو بيلد ولا تكتبها الوورد بس؟ لا، اكتبيها على الاو يو بيلد مش بس على الوورد. اوكي، فكل شيء بتكتبوه على الاو يو بيلد. نجود لسه فاتحه المايك وناسيه شكلها يا نجود. يا جماعه حد يتصل على نجود يقول لها مايكك مفتوح، شكلها مي داريه ان الجوال فاتح. طيب question، نروح على question 2. given، في احد عنده ستيل سؤال على question 1؟ اوكي طيب نروح على question 2. given a list of unsorted integer، you have a list وفيها numbers وما sorted. find the highest sum of all possible pairs in the list. أول حاجة it want the highest sum of all possible pairs in the list. For example, if you have the list 87253, then the highest sum would be 15, which is between 8 and 7 is the highest pair. Are the biggest integer in this given list, and hence their sum will be the answer. To solve this problem, the following two ideas can be used. هنا حطوا لكم عندك لستة فيها numbers وما هي مرتبة، ويبغاك تطلعي أعلى نمبرين وتحسبي المجموع ما بينهم، طلعي الهايست يعني. ففي two ideas حقتهم. أول حاجة consider every pair in the given list and find the highest sum. بتروحي تطلعي كل بير، بتشوفي وين أعلى value وبتروحي تطلعي الهايست sum، أو إن أنت ترتبي الليست first وبعدين تشوف المجموع حق أعلى رقمين فيها. فهذه الأيديا اللي حاطينها لكم. شو المطلوب؟ المطلوب transfer، وهنا المطلوب مش الأيديا only hint to help you to solve the question. Transform each of the above idea 1 and 2 into algorithms. يبغاكم تحولوها إلى algorithms number 1 and 2. هذه أول حاجة. الأيدياز الهنتس اللي حاطينها يبغاها كالجوريثمز. بعدين for idea 2 no need to write the sorting algorithm, just mention it. يعني في الالجوريثم الواجب موحد yes، بس أنا الفايل اللي عندي يا جماعة قديم، فما أدري إذا مستر شيخان سوى تغيير عليه ولا لا. يعني I know it's the same وأنتم بديتوا تحلوا في الواجب صح؟ فالمفروض يعني هذه نفس الأيديا صح يا جماعة موجود؟
صحيح دكتورة مزبوط، هذا السؤال مزبوط. sorting و two ideas و algorithms.
yes اي يعني انا ادري عنه انه هو عدل عليه شويه بس نفس الكويستشنز. اوكي ف اول حاجه بتحولوا الكويستشنز الى algorithm. ثاني حاجه الايديا 2 بالنسبه الى sorting النمبرز you need to say sorting the numbers in adjacent ولا deascendant order، تصاعدي ولا تنازلي. بعدين بتكملي في الالجوريثمز finding the highest two number وبعدين add calculate the sum of the highest two number وتكملي. Implement one of the algorithms into AOU build script to sort your list and provide screenshot of that. وبعدين بتروحي تاخذي الالجوريثم وتبنيه في AOU build وتسويه. Any question regarding this one? Question 2?
For me no.
خلينا نشوف في أحد عنده سؤال؟ يعني نصور نتيجة الأيو بيلد. يس لكل question لازم انت تصوري الاوتبوت. انا مو قادره اعرض الواجب على البرنامج لان ما طلع لي الفايل في الشيرنج فايل، بس اقدر اسوي لكم شيرنج. يمكن خليني اشوف بسوي لكم شيرنج للفايل. شير كونتنت مو راضي، بس انه خليني احط الفايل هنا وانتم تتشاركوا. upload from my computer. بس ترى هذا مو آخر نسخة، يعني اللي عندي أول ما نزل الTMA، فأنتوا المفروض تنزلوا الفايل من LMS. ما أدري ليش مو راضي يطلع من الجهاز نفسه عندي، يعني مو من أو من الفيرجن حق الفايل، ما أدري والله، مو قادر حتى أسوي له شيرنج.
مشكلة دكتورة.
أوكي. هو ما تشوفي شيء لأنه بس أنا اللي أشوف، بس قاعدة أقرأه، فإذا عندك الملف في الجهاز بتتابعي وياه. موجود يا عبد الله، مو الحين تاخذ فكرة عنه، ترى التسليم خلال أسبوعين يمكن. يعني أنت المفروض ما تكون تاخذ فكرة عنه اليوم، المفروض أن أنت بديت يعني. أوكي، فإذا ما تدري حاجة عن الموضوع بس نخلص على طول تدخل على MLS وتنزل الملف وتبدي تحل. اوكي طيب نروح على السؤال الثالث. ممتاز ممتاز. طيب خلنا نروح نشوف الكويستشن نمبر 3. طبعا الTMA بتحطوا سكرين شوت، وبعد ترى مطلوبه الملفات الأويو بيلد، يعني نفس ملفات الأويو بيلد اللي سويتوها بترفقوها كذلك مع ملف الواجب. Design algorithm to find whether the list A contains two elements such that AI plus AJ equal T or not. عندي list فيها عنصرين AI و AJ، ويبغى يشوف هل ال AI plus AJ بيساوي value معينة ولا لا. You are given a list A that contains n numbers and you are also given a target value T. فبيكون عندي التارجت T وبيكون عندي الليست اللي فيها الفاليوز النمبرز. فيبغوا يشوفوا العناصر اللي فيها بغض النظر عن 2 أو أكثر، هل مجموع الأعداد اللي فيها يساوي التارجت فاليو ولا لا. The following algorithm is designed for a specific above purpose. ما عندي أنا algorithms، فأتوقع النسخة الجديدة فيها algorithm حاطين لكم. You can use any sorting algorithm before you design the algorithm to make the algorithm faster. Yes بترفقوا ملف. فهنا عندك list وفيها numbers، مجموع النمبرز فيها هل يساوي الفاليو المعطاة الثانية ولا لا. yes قول نعم equal to، ما هي yes بتقول لا ما هي equal to، بس هذا هو. فيبغى الالجوريثمز يبغى البرنامج الاو يو بيلد. طبعا لكل الابلكيشن بترفقوا ملف الوورد واحد، كل جواب تحت السؤال وسكرين شوت من الاوتبوت والالجوريثمز، وكذلك بس تخلصوا تحتاجوا ترفقوا الاو يو بيلد للابلكيشن بتشتغل على طول. اوكي هذه هو. في احد عنده سؤال على الكويستشن 3؟ صوروا نتيجة الأو يو بيلد. اوكي هذه.
دكتورة انت حتشوفي لنا التي ام اي؟
اعتقد انا مفروض
ايه كويس.
انا بشوف.
يعطيك العافية دكتورة.
as I explained طبعا بيرسلوا لنا هم الموديل انسر.
ايوه
وبيحطوا لنا توزيع الدرجات عليها.
لا
فالمفروض تلتزموا بالانستركشن اللي حاطينها. حاطين لازم تحطي سكرين شوت.
ايه
سكرين شوت عليها
كل ايه
دكتورة
يس.
الله يعافيك. الحين بس آخر سؤال، أنا اللي فهمت منه لأن حليته بطريقة ثانية، يعني أنت تقولين تحط جواب يا إما يس يا إما نو. أنا حطيته بطريقة إنه لو حط تارجت اليوزر يختار أي تارجت، بعدين هذا التارجت يطلع الجواب حقه، إنه هل حيكون من elements or not from the elements.
لا ما هو كده. انت حاطه التارجت هل هو من الاليمنتس اللي في الليست ولا لا؟
إيه إنه مثلا التارجت لو حطينا التارجت تمام، ومع الكالكوليشن يقول هل هذا الاليمنت from the يعني هل هذا التارجت من الاليمنتس، if it was of the element فيطلع انه there are elements who join الجملة كاملة. اما التارجت خلاص.
لا ما هو كذا. هنا قال لك ان في لست اسمها A فيها 2 elements 5 و10. هل
اوكي
20 يساوي ال5 زائد ال10 الاليمنتس الموجودة فيها or not؟ يساويها ولا ما يساويها؟ في لستة. اوكي فانت بتحطي له الليست، تحطي له التارجت، مجموع العناصر اللي داخل يساوي التارجت فاليو ولا لا، مجموع وليس من ضمنها ولا مو.
يعني لازم يكون في ليست، ومن هذه الليست يحدد البروجرام إذا هذه الليست حتوصل التارجت أو لا من الاليمنتس.
العناصر فيها هنا قالوا فيها عنصرين، يعني
أي.
العنصر الأول 5، العنصر الثاني 10، التارجت 20.
أوكي
5 زائد 10 20 ولا لا؟ خطأ.
فما راح يطلع.
ما هو التارجت. طيب لو كان التارجت 15، 5 زائد 10 يساوي 15، صح ولا لا؟
أي صح.
يكون كذا. اوكي عرفت المقصود؟ يعني
اوكي تمام. يعني المجموع حق الليست اللي انا راح احطها لازم تساوي تارجت. اذا التارجت كان يختلف فراح يطلع from there are no elements.
Yes. راح يكون target is not equal to the sum of the elements.
تمام دكتورة يعطيك العافية.
الله يعافيك يا رب. طريقة الإجابة على كل الأسئلة نكتب الخوارزمية وصورة للأويو بيلد، اللي الخوارزمية قصدك الألغوريثم صح؟ الأويو بيلد الأوتبوت برضو صح؟ وبرضو ملف تشغيل الأويو بيلد. برافو كده.
دكتورة
يس.
أنا إذا حفظت ملف الآيو بيلد لما أجي أفتح مرة ثانية ما ينفتح.
شو يطلع لك الايرور؟
إنه أفتحه ببرنامج ثاني يعني ما ينفتح. حاولت.
إيش يطلع لك الاكستنشن؟
أصلا لما أحفظه بشاشة بيضاء.
يمكن وانت تثبتي الاويو بيل ما ايش تسوي؟ تحذفيه ترجعي تثبتيه من جديد. تشتغلي عليه عادي ما يطلع لك البيت. هاي رؤيا.
دكتورة صوتك راح ما أسمع.
المنيو تطلع لك وتقدري تستخدمي البرنامج عادي، ما عندك مشاكل؟
إيه أستخدم برنامج عادي.
غريبة. فأنت حاولي إن أنت تحذفي البرنامج وتشغليه. يمكن غيرتي اضغطي رايت كليك على الفايل، زين، وروحي اوبن ويز واختاري البرنامج AOU build وحطيه كديفولت بروجرام. اذا هو شغال عادي ف يمكن مغيره شوي في السيتنج، يعني يجوز هذا. اذا البرنامج شغال ما عندك مشاكل فيه، جربي رايت كليك اوبن ويز.
أوكي يعطيك العافية.
الله يعافيك.
الاكستنشن دكتورة بكون SB ما هيك؟
بيكون دقيقة خلينا نتأكد. والله أنا يعني ما أستخدم
SB I think.
SB كأنه AC، كأنه حاجة زي
AC.
كذا. لحظة بس خلينا نتأكد، لا أفتيكم، لحظة بس خلينا أشوف الملفات حقي هنا. التوتوريالز هنا، السوفت وير. بيكونوا SB2 بيكونوا.
ايه مزبوط SB2.
SB2. اوكي. في any question؟ كيف ترفعوا ملف الأويو بيلد؟ طبعا الوورد مع ثلاث ملفات الأويو بيلد بتحطوهم كلهم في compressed فايل، بتضغطوا الملف. وإذا ضغطتوا الملف تأكدوا طبعا أن تكونوا مسكرين كل الفايلات قبل ما تضغطوا الفايل، أوكي، عشان ما يصير عندي شورت كات، يصير عندي الملف كامل. فبتسكري الأويو بيلد الملفات وبتحطوهم في فولدر واحد، ملف الوورد وثلاث ملفات الأويو بيلد، وبتضغطوا الفايل. طريقة الضغط رايت كليك send to compressed file بهذه الطريقة، وترفعوا الملف. يعني ما ترفعوا ملف بتحطوهم كلهم سوا في فولدر واحد. SB2 مش 3، SB2. ها اوكي. رؤيا عبد الله كان عنده نفس المشكلة ويقول لك انتظري عليه شوي ويفتح.
أوكي يعطيكم العافية.
الله يعافيك يا رب. ايوه مو بس ملف الوورد يا رنيم، تحطي الوورد والثلاث ملفات الأويو بيلد في فولدر واحد بتسميه باسمك، ورايت كليك وكومبس، وتأكدوا ان الملف فيه الملفات صح قبل ما ترسلوه. انت بيكون ملف الوورد وفيه سكرين شوت بس، والثري فايلز مالت الأويو بيلد بتحطوهم سوا، يعني في الأخير الكومبرست فايل بيكون فيه 4 فايلات، 1 وورد و3 أويو بيلد. Okay. Any more question؟ ممتاز.
يعطيك العافية دكتورة.
الله يعافيك.
مشكورة مشكورة.
وشكرا لكم جميعا.
دكتورة لا تنسي تبعتي لمستر شيخان. الله
إن شاء الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين أنا صرت زينة، والحين إن شاء الله أرد على الإيميلات وأرسل
سلامتك. ألف سلامة عليك.
شكرا لك.
يعطيكم العافية.
دكتورة السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
الله يجزاه خير. بالنسبة وش اسمه للكوزات، في بعضهم قالوا إن عشان المادة إن كونها 8 ساعات. أنا في عندي مادة ثانية 8 ساعات برضه، لكن مقسمين اللي هو الشباتر أو الميتينج تقريبا كل 3 شباتر أو كل 3 ميتينج يسوونه في كوز واحد، والكوز أصلاً كل بين كوز وكوز في شهر كامل. فيعني من معقولة من جد يعني إن الكوزات حقتنا في المادة هذه تقريبا كل كوز من أول شابتر إلى الشابتر اللي وصلنا له وخلال أسبوع برضه. فمن جد بيصير شوية ضغط يعني زيادة علينا.
مستر شيخان الكوزات مو قاعد يحط فيها كل الشباتر، يعني من أول لين الأخير قاعد يختار شابترين.
ما هو هذا برضه شيء يقهر، ما هو برضه هذا شيء يقهر، يعني جالس خلينا نذاكر كل شابتر آخر شيء ما يجيب لي من شابترين.
اي لا ما هو يعني هو اتذكر انه رسل ايميل وضح قال فيها انه مش من الى الشباتر، يعني قال ان الاكزام بيكون included chapter 1 و chapter 4 for example، يعني بس هذول الاثنين. يعني بس اذا انت 1 اوريدي مذاكره ما عندك مشاكل فيه ف4.
اوكي بس لازم يعني برضه انا برجع عليه، يعني لازم اقل شيء بعطيه يمكن ابو ساعه نقول انه بس عشان اني اراجع المعلومات اللي قبل. وانا من جد اخر تقريبا الكوز اللي اختبرته جاني من تقريبا الشابتر الاول ولا الثاني، انا اذكر جتني اسئله.
طيب انت يعني ما تبغى تمتحن؟
دكتور ترى مكتوب لنا هنا كويز ماتيريال توتوريال 1 تو توتوريال 6 كل مره نفس الشيء ترى. راجع كل الشباب.
دكتورة مضغوطين لأنه إحنا أصلا مو بس TM 111، مثلا في ناس عندهم مواد ثانية، فيكون أنا مثلا زي أنا عندي يوم الأربعاء اختبارين، واحد الساعة 6 والثاني الساعة 8، وبس أذاكر لهذه المادة وأذاكر لهذه المادة خلال أسبوع. أحيانا ما ألحق أصير في نفس يوم الاختبار أجلس أذاكر كل شيء.
يعني تبغى أطلب منه أقول له الامتحان يبقى شابتر واحد بس؟
يعني لا شابترين بس، إنه مو كذا كل اختبار from 1 to 6 from 1 to 7 from 1 to 8، يعني مرة كثير.
اوكي يعني
أو كل أسبوعين
أي شابتر اللي راح يكون included في الإكزام.
هو يكون كل
ايوه يعني
يحدد
مثلا شابتر ولا 3 ويحدد لنا مثلا يزيد الفتره، يعني مو باسبوع يعني الماده الثانيه انا عندي شهر بين الكوز والكوز، وانا اشوف يعني ممكن وقت كافي يعني ان اذاكر 3 شابتر كل 4 ما عندي مشكله، بس اني اذاكر 6 شابتر في اسبوع لا هذا شوي ضغط صراحه.
ان شاء الله انا اللي علي اني انقل له وجهه نظركم واشوف ايش اللي يقول، اوكي، وارد عليه. وانتم كذلك ممكن ان انتم تتواصلوا معاه و if you have something يعني why we have all these quizzes we have a pressure in time، فانتم كذلك ترى ممكن ان انتم تتواصلوا مع مستر شيخان.
والله شوف يا دكتور انا صراحه ما تواصلت معه، لكن ما ظنيت انه بياخذ منه زي ما هو ماخذ منك يعني انت بيكون يعني كلامك مؤثر اكثر من احنا.
لا عادي ترى بياخذ منكم عادي، يستقبل ايميلات، واصلا في هو بيده اللي يحل، يعني هو البي سي سي حق الماده، فاذا انتم ما لفتوا له النظر للمشكله اللي انتم بتعانوا منها هو ما راح يلتفت. اوكي ف
ان شاء الله بحاول اتواصل معه،
عادي تواصلوا معه ايميل
ان شاء الله.
ان شاء الله ارفع له
ان شاء الله يجزاك خير دكتور.
ما يعني ارفع له وجهه نظركم.
تمام الله يعطيك العافيه دكتوره، شكرا لك.
العفو،
معزينك معنا دايم.
مو مشكله حياك.
الله يجزاك خير، شكرا لك.
حياك الله. شكرا for attending our session. We have a nice night. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.